Hey everyone, what's up and welcome. Today we are back and we are going to be breaking down Mr. Fantastic in Marvel Rivals. I wanted to put together a guide for you guys breaking down a bunch of tips and tricks to help you get started right with Mr. Fantastic. He's a very interesting character that differs from a lot of the other DPS characters we have in the game right now. He is a duelist, he is a squishy, yet not squishy target who is capable of some decent damage. I am in the Marvel Rivals partner program and a bunch of creators were able to get their hands on a test build of season 1 early, and so I've had days worth of time to sit in the practice range and really experiment with his kit to find out what he's capable of, and I wanted to put together all that information for you guys here today so you can get started with Mr. Fantastic and a decent idea of how his playstyle works in an actual live game scenario. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Let's get right into his kit. So like I said, Mr. Fantastic is a duelist and he is a rated 3-star difficulty. He's not the hardest character, but he does take a little bit of getting used to. He has a very particular playstyle because he is somewhat between a tank and a DPS. I think the only DPS tank hybrid we've seen in the game up until this point, and even then not nearly as much as Mr. Fantastic is probably Wolverine. Wolverine has very tank-like attributes, but Mr. Fantastic takes it a whole step further. I think Mr. Fantastic is the first character in the game that starts to show why they really didn't want to role queue or create role restrictions within this game, because there's a bunch of characters who may not be nearly as effective as, I don't know, let's say Hela or Spider-Man when it comes to potency and damage. They still deal damage and have squishier attributes, but with tank-like abilities that can kind of blend the two categories together. I think it'll create for some really flexible team compositions that allow you to rock certain characters to provide more of a hybrid playstyle instead of going the standard 2-2-2. First tip I wanted to point out that is non-gameplay related whatsoever, but if you do jump, your body stretches and it just looks cool. So if you didn't know, now you know. Let's jump straight into Mr. Fantastic's kit because he has some pretty simple abilities, but due to the nature of his abilities, him being stretchy, it actually enhances them in ways you wouldn't realize. His stretch punch, his left click, stretch out a forward punch to attack enemies. It's pretty standard. I'm gonna show it off here really quickly. It's a left click, right click, and then a double punch. So left punch, right punch, 2 punch. Each of these punches deals about 2 and a little bit of damage. Even the last one is in line with the first 2 punches. It does a good chunk though. They're left with just under 3 ticks of health left, so it's pretty potent. The trade-off here is that it's an extremely slow attack. You can hold down this attack and it'll just rapidly fire, but I honestly recommend taking the time to line up these punches with individual clicks because it's not like you're going to be missing out on fire right here. Make sure you take time to line up your shots. Now, although he is stretchy, he actually doesn't have as much range as you might think. He actually caps out just under 15 meters. Like sometimes if you're on the 15-meter line, you miss. So just under and you'll always connect. 15 meters. I'm on the 15-meter line now and you can see I'm just short. So pretty much just under and you're going to be in your safe melee range. And so at first glance, his punches are honestly underwhelming. Because of how slow they fire, I actually thought his damage output wasn't that great at first, but you come to realize he can really punish enemies who are clumped up together, kind of like Invisible Woman can with her pass-through. These stretches stay out for a little while after you actually do the punch, so higher sensitivity controller players and mouse and keyboard players with, a decent high enough sensitivity are going to really benefit from Mr. Fantastic's attacks, because if you extend out and you swipe your camera quick enough, you can actually hit multiple targets in one melee hit. So once again, if we just hold down our cursor here, you can hit as many targets that are on your screen with these individual punches. So he kind of, punishes groups for sticking close together. But once again, if you have a higher sensitivity, it doesn't really matter. You could probably 180 and hit them quick enough. Well, yeah, you can. It depends how quick your sense is. You could probably go a ridiculous sensitivity with Mr. Fantastic and get away with it. Next up, we're going to talk about Mr. Fantastic's team up ability. He does have a team up ability with Invisible Woman. Invisible Woman gets the 15% healing bonus, but she grants all members of the Fantastic Four with a special ability. The other 2 will be added later in the season, but right now Mr. Fantastic can place a piece of psionic armor on him that regenerates for as long as it's active. It's pretty nice. It only has a 20-second cooldown. We're throttled down to 150 health right now, and I'm going to show you how much shield it gives you. It goes from 150 and regenerates you up to 250, so it's an extra 100 health, and for as long as it is active, I can take some damage and it would regenerate. I'll show that off really quickly right here. We'll put the shield on. We're gonna take some damage. We're gonna get out and it regens back up. So for as long as, like I said, it's on you, it will come back as long as you're out of combat. Now, Mr. Fantastic is already a pretty tank-like character, which you will see shortly, but I think that that's going to be really powerful on the Thing and the Human Torch when he comes later, because the Human Torch, I'm sure, is going to be capable of more damage, and just that extra health is always just nice to have. Next up, we're going to go over Mr. Fantastic's Distended Grip. This is probably my favorite ability in his whole kit. It's just really fun and it looks cool in game. And this does have an increased range over his base attack. Like I said, his base punches are just under 15 meters. This one you could stretch out to about 20 meters. So when you go up to an enemy, you can grab them, and if you left click, you can grab them again, launching them towards you, and it deals a decent chunk of damage. I think the big thing being, once again, that you can grab them and kind of misposition them. Like you can bring them towards your enemies or bring them towards your teammates to, you know, capitalize on some picks. But the coolest part about this ability is that it doesn't just need to be used on one person. You can grab an opponent, grab another, and it'll knock them up in the air together. So it kind of staggers them, it knocks them in the air, it makes them susceptible to even more damage, it mispositions them, and it deals damage to both. Now, this attack can be kind of difficult to land, and it's got a rule in which you can't break your line of sight on the first target that you grabbed while going to grab a second one. So if I'm looking at this guy up here and I go here and I lose sight of him, I won't be able to grab both of them together. But it does have some off the map potential where you could actually send people to their death, and that's just kind of like a small glimpse of what could be possible. I'm excited to see how creative players end up getting with it, because I feel like it is going to be quite difficult to get those picks off the map. Moving on, we're going to talk about his flexible elongation. This ability is pretty cool. It's a pretty standard attack that'll deal some damage to the enemy, and it's a good way to close the space between you and your foes if you want to get close and personal. But if you extend over, it'll actually grant you 75 health. He goes from 350 up to 425 health. No matter what, whether you latch onto enemies or whether you latch onto your teammates, you will always personally get a little bit of shield. If you latch on enemies, you're going to do damage against shield. If you latch onto your teammates, you're going to give them shield and yourself shield. So it's good for multiple scenarios. It could be the thing that keeps somebody on your team alive, or it could be the thing that closes the gap and gives you the extra bit of health you need to secure a pick. I now wanted to go over his passive, because his passive is actually pretty powerful, and there's a lot of important pieces of information that you gotta need to know in order to build it up as quick as possible. If I sit here and I do a standard attack, that deals 5 damage to my elasticity meter. You guys can see that in the middle of my screen. It's at 5, it's at 10, it's at 15. Now, one thing to note about this charge up meter is that it only goes up 5 per attack. It's not going to go up 5 per hit. So if I extend out on this guy and hit this guy, it only went up by 5, even though it was 2 hits. Now, it seems like you'd be sitting here for quite a while trying to build up your meter, but it's important to note that all of your abilities in Mr. Fantastic's kit build toward this meter. His C ability, where you would pull towards people, grants 30 elasticity. Right click where you grab someone and then grab somebody else, that also grants 30 towards his elasticity meter. So if you were to use both, if you were to pull to them and then elasticity them, that's 60 towards your meter. And then you can keep pounding. Now you're at 70, now you're at 80. And when you finally reach 100, you inflate to a giant state. You get 800 health, you attack much quicker, your punches come out quicker than they do in your regular state, and you deal increased damage. His punches hit pretty hard. He really does feel like a true tank, and this is why I was saying that he is a real hybrid between the two classes. When you're in that elasticized state as well, there is the ability to cancel it, because you can't actually do any of your abilities when you are in that giant state. So there might be scenarios where you want to get out of it manually. So once again, we're going to get inflated. When you are inflated, I can't use any of my abilities, so I'm beating down. It doesn't last long, but if I want to cancel in advance, I just click V. At least that's my keybind. So if 800 health wasn't enough to get Mr. Fantastic into a tank-like state, that isn't even the most busted part of his kit. The most busted part of his kit is his final ability that we're going to go over here, and that is his Reflexive Rubber, where he stretches his body to absorb damage before launching stored damage in the targeted direction. This is an extremely powerful ability. Before we walk in the line of sight of damage, I am just going to pop it here. He looks absolutely ridiculous, but Mr. Fantastic is pretty much invincible when he's using this ability. You should almost never die to any character during an ultimate, as long as it's not a long duration ultimate, when you're playing Mr. Fantastic, because yeah, he's just invulnerable. Now, it did say it reflects damage back to the target. Now, each of these orbs that these Galactobots shoot is 25 damage. So if I step in front, that's 25, 50, 75, 100, 125. It doesn't deal 125 damage directly back to the target. It's kind of like diminishing returns. Like there's obviously a massive fall off of the damage you return to them, and it also has a cap. It doesn't infinitely increase, and then you could basically one-shot someone if someone, you know, if an entire team was shooting at you. That's not how it works, but it is a great survival tool. I'm actually going to switch over to some stream footage that me and my friend Milty were capturing here in the practice range, because I can't do it alone, back on the early access season 1 capture event day, where we were testing out Mr. Fantastic shift ability and just how much he could absorb and survive through a wide range of different characters' ultimate abilities. I think you guys will really enjoy this, and it also shows off a little bit of how his ability doesn't fully reflect the same amount of damage back to certain targets. And so as you guys can see, Mr. Fantastic can outlive anything. Like he's basically invincible at certain moments. It's kind of freaky. And that brings us to his final ability, which is his ultimate, and it's pretty interesting how his ultimate works. I'm actually a little bit underwhelmed by it, but I'll give it a brief explanation here. Basically, the Brainiac bounce, you leap upwards and smash the ground, slowing enemies within range, and you can leap again upon landing a hit. So it's somewhat similar to Bucky's ult in that you constantly go up and down in the air again, but it doesn't reset on kill. It resets if you hit the enemy again. So you'll keep on bouncing. I'll show it off and what that looks like really quickly. We're gonna pop his ultimate here. We're gonna bounce, we got a hit, we keep bouncing. We got a hit, we keep bouncing. You can bounce upwards of 6 times as long as you keep hitting. 6 total bounces, and then the ultimate will end. The trade-off here is that if I am bouncing and I land a hit and then I bounce again and I don't hit anyone, I just stop bouncing. So you guys saw there, my ultimate ended after only 3 bounces. Now his ultimate gets kind of funny when you use it indoors, because you guys see how high I go up in the air when I'm bouncing, but if you have a roof over your head, you'll actually bounce a little bit quicker, which just looks really cool. We're bouncing, we're bouncing, we're bouncing. Once again, there's no enemies in here, so I can't keep bouncing, but if there was, you would be slamming and dunking on a guy's head over and over again. Now, for to be brutally honest about his ability, I'm actually a little bit underwhelmed by it because of the damage that it does. And because it doesn't do a lot of damage, I would expect myself to be pretty tanky in its state when I pop the ultimate, but a lot of times people like to burn ultimates on low health to really capitalize on their true potential while they're alive, and you don't really get any overhealth when you're in this. So however healthy you are is however much health you're going to have for the duration of the ultimate. If you're weak, you're going to lose your ult pretty quickly, and you're not that difficult to hit when you are in that bouncing state. So I feel like it could use a bit of a buff. So that's all of Mr. Fantastic's abilities and all the tips that I had regarding each ability, but I kind of wanted to break down now what his gameplay loop really looks like and how to play him cohesively. I think the ultimate goal with Mr. Fantastic is to take full advantage of his passive, which is where you enter the oversized elasticity state, you deal more damage, you attack faster. So for the time being, I kind of like to stick around and just start racking up damage, utilizing your right click, racking up abilities, mispositioning them, bringing them closer together, and spamming your attacks with your elasticity. The closer they are together, the easier it's going to be to actually, you know, hit more targets. But once you've gone into the state, and you're at enough elasticity and you know you could capitalize on a close-in, you're gonna want to go to them, and that will grain you into the oversized state. Once you're in their face, you can now deal mass amounts of damage and really get those picks that you're looking for. Once you're in there and you need to get out, you can use your oversized elasticity state to survive, get back to your healers, and then any damage that they're putting into you, you can kind of revert back to them as a nice little farewell after you killed their healer. I think a Psionic Shield allows you to get extra aggressive. If you pop it and you right click, you can just bring someone straight to you and get a little bit of scrappy with the extra health you have. Maybe you even chase them down a little bit, and then you can walk yourself back out. Not to mention, if you're getting scrappy with, let's say, a Wolverine and you're pushing together, don't forget to shield your teammates. Not only can you pull to the enemy, but you can pull to your teammates, so you can both move in and coordinate yourself shielded up together. Now, although I did say his ultimate is a little bit weak, that is in Mr. Fantastic's base form, and I do think that it's a lot to ask to build up to a certain state to even pop an ultimate. But if you did want to take absolute max advantage of Mr. Fantastic's ultimate, you're going to be building up these meteors, you're going to be dealing massive damage, you're going to get to a point where you know you can enter the inflated state when diving on a character. I'm going to dive in, I'm going to become inflated, I'm going to take out one character, I'm nice and inflated, and now while inflated, I'm going to enter my ultimate. Now, once you enter your ultimate, you actually stay in your tanked up HP, 800 HP form until the ultimate is over. So in that case, you are pretty beefed up and you can very much so take full advantage of it. I would honestly refrain away from using it in basic Mr. Fantastic form. But yeah, overall, some pretty awesome combinations. Not quite as flashy, in my opinion, as Invisible Woman, but I can definitely see some absolutely demonic Mr. Fantastics out there. And because he's so tanky and hard to kill as a DPS character, I could actually see him being meta and a serious problem. It'll be interesting to see how he plays out in ranked. Let me know if you guys learned anything in today's video when it came to Mr. Fantastic. For all you Mr. Fantastic mains out there, I wish you luck. And if you guys want to see more Marvel Rivals content here on the channel, we will be posting tons here in season 1. We've already posted a lot, lots of videos to go through in the backlog. We posted an Invisible Woman guide as well if you guys want to check that out. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy season 1, and I do stream every day on Twitch. Link to that will be in the description if you guys want to watch me climb some ranked, probably as some Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman. But I'll catch you all in the next video. Have a great rest of your day. Thanks so much for watching. Keep up, stay up. Peace out.